نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So tonight inshallah ta'ala that normally we'll be doing the book Al-Mulakis al-Fiqh by Shaykh Salih Fawzan Hafidullah ta'ala, but because we're doing this series relating to Ramadan and preparing for Ramadan, so we have decided to discuss the book Kitab al-Siyam from the book of Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik rahimahullah. So this will be the third session in discussing this particular chapter or book Kitab al-Siyam from the book of Imam Malik rahimahullah Al-Muwatta. So inshallah ta'ala we'll be picking up from where we have left. So in previous session that we have discussed from our author rahimahullah, I've mentioned that he stated, so we started by mentioning certain matters regarding the ahkam of Ramadan, regarding fasting Ramadan, that is something which is wajib and also considered to be wajib upon the Muslim to comply with the rules of fasting, and that also that Siyam Ramadan is considered to be one of the arkan of Islam. Then also regarding the person who does not fast, what's the rule that pertains to such a person or deny fasting of Ramadan, then we mentioned something of that nature. Then the author, then also of those people that are required to fast, what are those conditions that one should fulfill for them to be of those that is compulsory for them to fast, and we discussed 6 matters as mentioned by the ulama. Then after we discussed concerning the author that he mentioned regarding starting with this discussion, he started regarding what is said to be how to determine how to start the month of Ramadan and also how to bring things to an end. So we discussed concerning some of the hadith that relate to that particular discussion. Then after we were concerned that one single person, so a person fasting on their own, is this allowed or not? If is shahada, if him sighting the moon has been rejected, should he fast or not fast? But general regard that the Muslim that try to fast together and according to one's country. Then also he discussed of the matter regarding bab man ajma as-siyam, meaning concerning qabl al-fajr, that he mentioned this chapter heading which relates to that the person having the intention before fasting. So discuss regarding this particular matter that the hadith, or he mentioned some athar. So the author, he mentioned some athar that goes back to Abdullah ibn Umar, also Aisha and others who have some narration of and also Hafsa, that they have mentioned regarding some statement regarding that the person who does not have an intention before Fajr, then is fasting yet not valid. So I mentioned that you have also with this, you have some ahadith upon the Prophet ﷺ that have covered this matter, but the ulama have criticized those hadith. So of the ulama who have criticized the authenticity of those hadith regarding fasting, the person must have an intention before the night. Going back to the Prophet ﷺ, there's some discussion regarding those ahadith. As for the hadith that are mentioned here, they are mostly athar upon the Sahaba. So from this, that the ulama discussed regarding in fasting Ramadan, that the person should have an intention, as the hadith إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So it shows that acts of ibadat, they are required to have an intention. So as for Ramadan, that is the intention that is required, that a person have to have an intention for each night separately, or is it sufficient for a person to have one intention from the start of Ramadan and that will take him through to the end without him or her renewing their intention on a daily basis? So you have that khilaf between the ulama. So said that based upon that, there is no hadith upon the Prophet ﷺ that specify this matter, but more so what we have is some athar from the Sahaba. Then it shows regarding concern that it is afdal that the person should have an intention for the start of Ramadan at least, but also what is more preferred, that a person that he renew this intention on a nightly basis based upon these athar that have come by way of the Salaf. Then we discuss concerning the next matter regarding bab ma jaa fi ta'jil al-fitr. Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala, he discussed concerning of those matters that regarding Ramadan, that to hasten in breaking of one fast, so the person should not delay it unnecessarily. Then he mentioned some hadith regarding the Prophet ﷺ praising of those of this ummah that they are quick or hastening in breaking of their fast. So I mentioned regarding concerning that these are those things that the person should be mindful of regarding breaking of the fast, upon the person being aware or the persons have certainty that the time of entered to break the fast, then the person should break his fast and not to delay to delay it. And the person that he goes, if he's able to hear the adhan and the adhan is the timing is on point and correct, then the person he goes with the adhan of the masajid. Then so we have stopped there inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll pick up from where we had stopped, which is the chapter that follows. Naqra, we read and then we discuss the hadith accordingly. So read the entire chapter and then we'll discuss the hadith in whole. Tafaddal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. From the book of Muwatta, Imam Malik rahimahullah. Book of fasting. Chapter, fasting when someone finds himself in janaba in the morning during Ramadan.
Hey, so pause. So you mentioned باب ما جاء في صيام في الصيام الذي يصبح جنبا في رمضان. So before we discuss the hadith, so the chapter heading that as mentioned by Sheikh Sa'ad al-Shutri, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, that he mentioned as for this chapter heading, that after things that you find that in the books of hadith, that the ulama, they pay attention regarding the chapter headings. So they call them tarjuma. So these tarjuma, which is like the chapter headings, that for them that they pay a lot of attention, as that also give us some insight as to the matter that is being discussed. And also at times, it gives us an idea regarding the view taken by the author of the book. So a lot of attention is placed regarding these chapter heading, so as to us to understand what are the matters that are being discussed. So he mentioned that, so what is being discussed, he mentioned Bab ma ja fi siyam, that to mention regarding Bab ma ja fi siyam, regarding Ahadith wal Athar, that relates to Siyam in what area? Alladhi yusbih, regarding the one who wakes and is wake in the morning and is in a state of janaba in the month of Ramadan. So the person who in the month of Ramadan who's expected to be fasting, and as mentioned by Sheikh Sa'ad al-Shutri Hafidhullah, mentioned إذا كان جنبا, if the person who wakes is junuban ولم يغتسل, and he hasn't performed ghusl إلا بعد طلوع الفجر, after the sun of rise. So after the sun of rise, then وبعد الأذان, and after adhan. So the person is in a state of janaba when he woke, when he got up from sleep, that the sun is already up, he hasn't performed ghusl, and after the adhan, after fajr, what is the hal, what should be done in such a meaning concerning hal yusah sawmu, is such a person siyam valid? So a person in that state, is such a person siyam valid? They woke up in a state of janaba by way of intimacy, they haven't taken their ghusl, but the time, they have now passed the time after Fajr, what is to be done? Are they to fast or not to fast? So he mentioned a hadith regarding this matter. Tafaddal.
Yahya related to me from Malik, from Abdullah ibn Abdurrahman ibn Ma'mar al-Ansari, from Abu Yunus, the Mawla of Aisha radiallahu anha, from Aisha, that she overheard a man standing at the door saying to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Messenger of Allah, I get up in the morning in janaba in a state of major ritual impurity and want to fast. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I too get up in the morning in janaba and want to fast. So I do ghusl and fast. The man said to him, you are not the same as us. Allah has forgiven you all your wrong actions that have gone before and those that have come after. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam got angry and said, by Allah, I hope that I am the most fearful of you with respect to Allah and the most knowledgeable of you in how to fear Allah. Al-Hadith. Yahya related to me from Malik, from Abdur Rabihi ibn Sa'id.
And Abdur Rabbi.
Abdi
Rabbi.
Ibn Sa'di.
Ibn Sa'id.
Abu Bakr ibn Abdurrahman ibn Harith ibn Hashim ibn Hisham, from Aisha and Salama, the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to get up in the morning in janaba as a result of intercourse, not a dream, in Ramadan, and then he would fast. Yahya related to me from Malik, from Sumay, the Mawla of Abu Bakr ibn Abdurrahman ibn al-Harith ibn Hisham, that he heard Abu Bakr ibn Abdurrahman ibn Harith ibn Hisham say, my father and I were with Marwan ibn Hakam at the time when he was governor of Medina, and someone mentioned to him that Abu Hurairah used to say, if someone begins the morning in janaba, he has broken the fast for that day. Marwan said, I swear to you, Abdurrahman you must go to the two al-Mu'mineen, Aisha and Salama, and ask them about him. Abdurrahman went to visit Aisha and accompanied him. He greeted her and then he said, al-Mu'mineen, we were with Marwan ibn al-Hakam, and someone mentioned to him that Abu Hurairah used to say that if someone had begun the morning in Janaba, he had broken the fast for that day. Aisha said, it is not as Abu Hurairah says, Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman, do you dislike what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to do? And Abdurrahman said, no, by Allah. Aisha said, I bear witness that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to get up in the morning in Janaba from intercourse, not because of a dream, and would then fast for that day. He continued, then we went and visited Salama, and Abdurrahman asked her about the same matter, and she said the same as Aisha had said. Then we went off until we came to Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Abdurrahman told him what they had both said, and Marwan said, I swear to you, Abu Muhammad, you must use the mount which is at the door and go to Abu Hurairah, who is on his land at Al-Aqiq, and tell him this. So Abdurrahman rolled off, and I went with him until when we came to Abu Hurairah. Abdurrahman talked with him for a while and then mentioned the matter to him. And Abu Hurairah said, I don't know anything about it, I was just told that by someone. Yahya related to me from Malik from Sumayn, the Mawla of Abu Bakr from Abu Bakr ibn Abdurrahman, that Aisha and Salama, the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to get up in the morning in Janaba from intercourse, not on account of a dream, and would then fast.
So the author, Imam Malik rahimahullah, mentioned these ahadith al-athar regarding concerning this particular matter, or these ahadith regarding this particular discussion, which is what's the concern, as we mentioned, what's the hal or what's the hukum regarding the Islamic ruling pertaining to the person who got up in the morning and they're in a state of janaba. Are they allowed to fast or not allowed to fast? So he mentioned these ahadith regarding concerning the matter. So he mentioned regarding concerning those ahadith that goes back to al-Mu'mineen, Aisha radhiyallahu anha, regarding concerning that, as I mentioned, that rajul that the person said to the Prophet ﷺ, وَهُوَ واقف, that the person was standing ala bab. Then it mentioned regarding concerning the Anna Asma, and she was there listening to what was taking place. So it shows regarding that that huwa waqif, that the Prophet ﷺ that was standing, and then she heard over here what was being said. Then over regarding concerning that the person asked, inni usbi junuban wa ana urid as-siyam. So the person kind of somewhat what was being discussed in this matter. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, wa ana usbi junuban wa ana urid as-siyam faqtasil wa asum. Then he mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ explained to the person that I would like in that situation, that I woke up in this situation in a state of janaba, what I did, faqtasil wa asum, that I took a bath, faqtasil wa asum, and then I fast. So it shows that the permissibility of it. It shows that the permissibility regarding the person who woke up and their state of janaba, not because of intimacy, that they did not take their bath immediately after, but when they woke up, they were still in a state of janaba. Then for that person, is still allowed and still upon that person that they must fast and also take their bath and fast. So this doesn't per se, it breaks, waking up in a state of janaba does not invalidate the person's siyam. It does not invalidate the person's siyam. So the Prophet ﷺ explained to this person regarding this particular matter. Then, so that's concerning what was mentioned. Then the person, when he heard this statement, فَقَالَ لَهُ رَجُلٌ, and a person can someone, Ya Rasulullah alayhi wasalam, إِنَّكَ لَسْتَ مِثْلَنَا, that you are not similar to us, you are not like us. So the person, when he heard this case, is the person who put that, you are not like us. Then he mentioned why you are not like us. فَقَدْ غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ مَا تَقَدَّمْ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven you of your past and your previous and your coming sins. So your past and present sins have been forgiven. So you're not like us. Then when the Prophet heard this statement, فَقَال, the hadith, فَغَضَبَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ ﷺ, the Prophet became very angry, became upset. وَقَال وَاللَّهِ إِنِّي لَأَرْجُو أَنْ أَكُونَ أَشْخَاخُمْ لِلَّهِ وَعَالَمَكُمْ بِمَا أَتَّقِي. Then so the Prophet then he mentioned the statement that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I hope that I'm the one who's most God-fearing amongst you, and also that I'm the most knowledgeable regarding concerning these matters. So from this hadith they mentioned, so the hadith is to discuss that matter, show its permissibility to the Prophet ﷺ, show that, and this is the asl of this hadith, hadithun sahih, that also narrated by Abu Dawood in his Sunan, Ahmad in Hanbal, and others that have narrated this hadith. So the hadith mentioned here Then also you find others who have narrated the hadith of Salama and the likes as to be mentioned. And I mentioned the hadith, manah for the hadith in the Imam Muslim rahimahullah in his Sahih. So as for the hadith, can I somewhat mention the person, someone asked the Prophet ﷺ a question that the Prophet ﷺ's wife, she overheard and was in what was being said. And regarding this matter, and then she transmitted what she heard regarding this discussion. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked regarding the state of the junub, the person, the state of janaba, sexual impurity, who woke up, then the Prophet ﷺ told the person that he had went through this, وَأَنَا أُرِيدَ الصِّيَامِ, and he mentioned to her that I woke, أَنَا أُصْبِ جُنُبًا, that I woke up in a state of janaba, وَأَنَا أُرِيدَ الصِّيَامِ, and I wanted to fast. Then he mentioned, فَاغْتَسِلْ وَأَصُومْ, I perform ghusl and I fast. So the Prophet ﷺ clarified the person as to what to be done. He gave him the fatwa and direction regarding what to be done in such a state. So that's the hukum regarding that matter. So if a person wake up in that state, then what is to be done? The person, they will take their ghusl and they will still fast that day. And their fasting is considered to be a valid sawm. So as for other matters discussed in the hadith that they mentioned here, that when the Prophet mentioned Wallahi inni la arju an akuna ashkhakum lillah, it was not said out of fakhr, out of being out of pride. So the Prophet when he mentioned it, so he's kind of somewhat highlighting something that regarding that he has been in food context, that he is the most God-fearing amongst us, not out of what's that the word fakhr?
Boasting.
Or boasting. Now, just consider to clarify why, because either one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have chosen to be the one to take this message of Islam and also to be the best example for us. So, then also the Prophet ﷺ also in this hadith can somewhat explain his own personal situation. Now, so that's going to somewhat to like reinforce that the answer to the person, for the person to fully grasp the answer. That I went through this. So should the Prophet ﷺ that his lifestyle, that he experienced things that we said ordinary people would experience. The Prophet ﷺ also experienced things that ordinary people would experience, and from his experience, then rulings, ahkam is taken from it. The ulama mentioned regarding concern this matter, when the person mentioned regarding when he heard the information, then he mentioned, Ya Rasulullah innaka lasta mithlana, you are not like us. Then the person mentioned why? فَقَدْ غَفْرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ مَا تَقَدَّمْ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرْ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiven you of your past and your future sins. So they mentioned regarding concern, the person said this, then the Prophet then what? فَغَضَبَ, the Prophet got upset. They mentioned regarding concerning of Ibn al-Arabi and also Sheikh Saad al-Shitri and others that I mentioned regarding concern from this point, where this person kind of somewhat, when he was told the answer, he kind of somewhat responded back to the Prophet in a way that kind of somewhat was unbefitting. So the person that kind of somewhat responded to the response, the answer that was given to him by the Prophet in a way what was unbefitting. I was going to say in a way which was rude, disrespectful. That not intending to be rude and disrespectful, but in a way which was unexpected from the person. They mentioned regarding concerning that this hadith, they mentioned that Ibn al-Arabi and also Sheikh al-Shitri mentioned في هذا خبر من الفوائد. So of the benefits from this, they mention that of the benefit from this hadith and the story that goes with it, and al-asl في أفعاله or أفعال النبي عليه السلام, the asl, the origins of the Prophet Islam action, أنه يقتدى به, that we follow his example. So anything the Prophet Islam did, the asl, the origin, what is expected from us is that we obey and follow his example. So the Prophet Islam did an act, it's for us also too that we are allowed to do of that act and to follow his example, not as a person, not to go against it, not to go against his action. So it shows regarding the Prophet Islam that his statement are to be followed, also his actions are to be followed. He's to be obeyed by way of his speech and actions. So he explained to the person regarding that matter. So they said that the rule, the principle is that regarding the Prophet Islam actions, things that he did by way of his action, then we are supposed to, if been confirmed that he did these things, then we follow him in what he did. We follow him. Then I mentioned الثاني أنه أن ما جاء من أحكام مشروعا في حقه فإنه مشروع لنا. That the second principle I mentioned, that things that have been transmitted upon him, the Prophet ﷺ, regarding أحكام الشرعية, regarding him, the Prophet ﷺ, explaining things regarding the Sharia, then it's for us also to follow. It becomes something that what he did is allowed for us to do it. And I might put a criteria regarding, so what he, the Prophet ﷺ, did by way of his actions, then it's allowed for us to do of those actions, unless there is something to say it is specific to him. That's the general rule. So whatever action the Prophet ﷺ did, then it's allowed, becomes permissible for us to do of that thing, unless there's something to say otherwise. There's something to say that others are not allowed to do this act. So the person can somewhat mention that as a way of, maybe for you it is something different for you than for us. So the Prophet ﷺ then kind of somewhat refuted that by what he mentioned after. Also issued the Prophet ﷺ, they mentioned another point regarding concerning, where he mentioned the third point regarding al-fa'id, he mentioned أنه إذا تعارض قول للنبي عليه السلام وفعله فإنه حينئذ تقوم بمحاولة الجمع بينهما ولا نسير إلى الترجيح الأقوال إلا عند العدم معرفتنا للطريق الجمع بينهما وعدم المعرفة الطريق. Then he mentioned next matter, which is general meaning of what is being mentioned, that if something have come to us upon the Prophet ﷺ, and from what we see it, it seems to be some conflict between his actions and his statement. So you might find some narration, some text, from what seems to us that there's some conflict regarding what the Prophet ﷺ did and what he said. Then what's our position? How we should approach those things? The Shaykh, he mentioned a general rule is that one, try to combine between those things. Even though, I said, and the ulama of usul, they have guidelines regarding how to jam bain al-nusus, how to harmonize between the texts. So you have rules regarding and methods regarding how to harmonize al-jam between the texts, so as not to make anything seem as if it's conflicting. So you have that system. Then they mention if one is unable, then one go to a tarjih. Which is, then one may have to take one of those views over the other. Take a particular view, and it means maybe acting upon some texts and avoiding others. Then he mentioned also regarding concerning that next matter, that from this hadith, and also come regarding concerning that mu'aratus an-nas, the one who goes against a text. So the person in this case did not have any ill feelings or ill will in going against the text, but he mentioned certain things that kind of somewhat as if he wasn't satisfied with the answer. And that's a Sahabi. With me? So in those cases concerning mu'arata an-nas, with a person, one going against the text. So either a person go against the text, and the person, we could say it wasn't ill-intended, but the person, he fell into an error, where he goes in contrary to the text. He's opposing the text. So the person, by way of his intention that he wanted to attain that which is correct, but by chance the person, he fell into error. The person, on their research or how they look at things, they didn't come to the correct conclusion. They fell into error. So this is said to be a khata. Where the person, I said, no ill intent, it was not intended, but it did occur, an error. So in that case, what to be done? If the case, said, so if, or they said at times, it becomes that, or zalla, where it becomes even more intense, then in those cases of khata or zalla, from alim or from anyone, one, we have to, regarding concerning, acknowledge that that's a khata. Because they're opposing the text. So if someone fall in error, and by looking at the text, we can say, yes, that's an error. Even the person who said was what? It wasn't done out of ill will. But we still have to acknowledge it's a khata. It's an error. And the second thing, so to acknowledge an error. Second thing, for it to be corrected. Even though said what? It was not done in a malicious way, that in a sense, the person had no ill will, what they did, but still it has to be what? Second thing, what? Corrected. And the third thing, that one is not allowed to follow that error. We cannot follow and we cannot follow that error because it's an error. So that's concerning that particular matter. Then you have a next case regarding mu'arat al-nas or a hadith. The person will go against the hadith. Where concerned the person go against the hadith, and whatever the reason is, that their opposition to the hadith led them to fall in a bid'ah. So the first case, khata, this case, going against the hadith, that the person, he fell in a bid'ah. So for example, which month we're in? Sha'ban. And so in Sha'ban, we just about a couple of days ago, Friday or so, today's when Monday, Friday or so, Friday, there's a lot of things regarding Nisfu Sha'ban, regarding concerning a hadith that relates to, said in general, a hadith that relates to the virtue of Sha'ban. You have some hadith that relates to the virtue of Sha'ban. When it's time for the adhan, let me know, because I can't see. So you have a hadith that relates to the month of Sha'ban. Of those hadith which is mawdu', of those hadith mawdu', of those hadith which is authentic, and of those hadith, this is mawdu', daif, and also weak, that one category, a hadith of a second category which is hadith which is sahih. And then we have a hadith which is, there's a discussion between the ulama. Some say the hadith is daif, and some may say the hadith is hasan or sahih. So of those ones, you understand, so a hadith regarding concerning that praying a specific salat in the month of Sha'ban, whether the 15th or the 16th or whatever, there's no such hadith that is authentic. That is a special salat. So yeah, people might pray and then the 15th night, they have a particular salat to be done in a particular way, or some people go to the masjid and they read in congregation or the masjid, Surah Al-Yasin or whatever. All those things doesn't exist by way of text. If they exist, they are mawdu' or daif jiddan. They are fabricated hadith or weak hadith. To the extent they find the light of Ibn Rajab and the likes mentioned, there's no hadith which is authentic regarding these things. Then you have the next thing regarding as-siyam. Then and that hadith, إذا اتصف شعبان فلا تصوموا. So you have this hadith, we find a discussion between the ulama regarding that hadith being authentic or not. Those who even said it's authentic, they mentioned the hadith is mansukh. Sorry? Abrogated. So mansukh is the hadith about after the middle of Shaban, you're not to fast. I even said a discussion regarding authenticity, but those who hold it to be authentic, some hold that the hadith is mansukh. And then you have Ahmed and others who are going to somewhat, they have some issue with the hadith, and others, and Abu Zurha and the likes. Then you have those hadith. Another one regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descending and forgiving of everyone except a mushrik and a mushahin and a person who have honor and malice between themselves. That hadith, now you have a lengthy discussion regarding it being authentic or not. You have a lengthy discussion regarding that hadith. So that hadith can also mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends and he forgives of sin on that night, except for everyone except the mushrik and the mushahin and the person, those who have malice. So you have a lengthy discussion regarding that hadith. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah in his silsila sahiha, or the hadith to be sahih. And based upon, he mentioned to be narrated by about 8 or so, or 6 or 8 Sahaba. You understand? So he said all the isnad, when they add together, they give strength and they become Sahih or Hasan. But we said that's a discussion between the ulama of hadith regarding his position and others who hold the hadith to be daif. But yeah, so you have that discussion. So where we're at? Hey, so regarding concerning al-bidah, that so said no, regarding concerning of bidah, that a person doing something that have no text, no basis. So someone said that so of the things regarding a Muslim, regarding not falling to bidah, then you have to be careful regarding, as we said, certain things that have been mentioned, that we need to look at it carefully without being biased and not ta'assub. So you find that many who fall into these bidah is because they are somewhat blinded by ta'assub. So the general rule of Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Hadith, wal Athar, that they believe concerning, they mention concerning the rule that they follow, that they do not, that concerning that yastadil thumma ya'taqid, that first they bring the evidence, then after the evidence and understanding correctly, then they come to a conclusion. So their thing is to find the evidence, then after having the evidence, then they come to a conclusion. Ahl bidah ya'taqid thumma yastadil. Ahl bidah, they come to conclusions, then they try to find evidence for it. And that's a problem. They already have some assumptions or ideas, and then they try to find evidence, and then they try to know to twist things around regarding those matters to kind of somewhat to give some type of validity to their acts. So that things of bidah, one have to be careful. So that if a person fall into bidah, what's concerned, so to understand that, and you find today, so regarding concerning al-bidah in Islam, it is something that is deemed as bidah, is considered to be something regarding that newly invented regarding the matter of the deen. Al-bidah is something which is newly invented regarding the deen, that there is no text for it by way of Quran or Sunnah or from the Salaf al-Salih. Also with bidah, to understand that bidah is considered to be haram by way of hukum. Bidah is considered to be haram. And also is considered to be batil. Wal fasad fi deen. And something that to be rejected. Man amila amalan laysa li amruna fahuwa rad. That the one who does something that is not from us, then it is rejected. So bidah is to be rejected. So if we can say something's a bidah, then it's to be rejected. Also with bidah, so the hukum generally, so with bidah is for us to be clear regarding its ruling. It is haram. And it's not a part of the deen. And we should free the deen from it. And also ourselves from it. Also with bidah, that what is required concerning, as we mentioned, hukum al-bidah and al-munkar. It is something which is evil regarding the deen, and not something that we should encourage. The Muslim should be one. And then the next step will be al-hadar min al-bidah. That those people go against the sunnah and fall into bidah, in opposite, then those things of bidah, al-hadar min. One have to warn against bidah. From whoever. Al-hadar min al-bidah. That one have to caution and warn the people, the Muslim, against any bidah. Now, and at times, so bidah, to warn against the act, and also al-fail wal-fa'il. And at times, even the fa'il, even the person, those that are doing it. That especially concerning man ahdatha, especially those people are the ones who are the people who are behind it, the leaders, or the ones who are the ones who have innovated that thing, then at times call them out. So at times call not ahli bidah. So call not ahli bidah or involved in bidah, then this is something which is jaiz. Something a person, you hear them talk online, that if a person fall into something bidah, to know, it is evil. What's the word they use? That wrong. I'm not sure what they mean by wrong. You understand? Then if I want to give you nasiyah, I must call you and talk to you in private in something I deem that you are doing, that you have said or done something which is incorrect or wrong or bidah or whatever. Then the first step, I should call you on the phone and talk to you before, and not to go public. Then that statement also, this matter, there's tafsil. At times it's allowed to call someone and bring it to their attention, and at times it's allowed that you don't have to call them, you can go public and discuss it. So this thing that the people make it seem you have to contact the person first and talk to him. That's not correct. To say that have it like this. The person has said something public, then everyone, and it is wrong, and it is done public, and it is attributed to Islam, then everyone who can identify that thing is wrong, they have a right that they can publicly denounce it without contacting that person. If they choose to do so, then that's on them. And we're not saying that is wrong, but it's not a condition that they have to contact that person. Then that's other people you say that said no, then that principle that like that, then that needs to be reviewed. So said with bid'ah al-hadar min, and at times those who are involved in bid'ah. Third, regarding bid'ah, what comes with bid'ah al-wala wal-bara. Al-bid'ah, what comes with it al-wala wal-bara, concerning love and hate. So the people are involved in bid'ah, then we dislike them for that bid'ah that they're involved in. I'm saying for the Muslim, so we love them for their iman, but we hate them for the bid'ah that they're involved in. So with bid'ah, it has wala wal bara. So we have to draw a line. So regarding your bid'ah, there's a dislike for you involved in the act of bid'ah. So it's wala wal bara regarding al bid'ah. So al bughd kullu bid'ah, that we have dislike for all bid'ah. Wal bughd al fa'il, and also the people who does it. And the fourth matter regarding concerning this matter is regarding with those who are mu'anid, the ones who are stern against their bid'ah. Then those ones, what comes with it, bab al-hajar. Bab al-hajar. That those people then, they can be al-hajar, that can be boycotted. So the people upon their bid'ah and they're stern and they're not taking heed and they're being cautioned and they're not listening and they're still upon their way, then of those things that could be, of the things concerning them, of all those things that after al-hadar and bring it to their attention and clarifying, and they still wish to hold to their act and oppose the sunnah, then in those cases, al-hajar. And hajar have different ways, tanawwa. So hajar, it comes in different forms. So at times that person, it may be allowed for a person to, if he's an imam of masjid, not pray behind him. If the imam of a person in the community who is known for the bid'ah and being of those ones who are the vanguard of bid'ah and pushing the bid'ah, then if he die, don't pray up in him. Also, not giving him salam, not returning his salam, nor giving him salam or returning his salam. Hajar, where you avoid him completely. Unless when you say not to sit with him and laugh, and as we say in Jamaican, grin your teeth. If you know what I mean. So not to be sitting with a person acting as if nothing is wrong. So said al-hajar, it may come in various ways. Not marrying to that family because of the bid'ah and the people that are in the understand. So you have different things that may different ways of hajar, the person involved in bid'ah. So different ways of we said hajar is what? Boycotting. Boycotting. So those are the things to be mindful of. No, but there's rules and guidelines that the people looking into it are the people of ilm and people of hikmah. Not, you understand, the people of fawda. So these things, yes, can apply, but with the direction of the kibar al-ulama. So in general, these things are allowed, but then he mentioned, so that's concerned that matter. So it shows regarding people opposing the Prophet Islam Sunnah is not something to be taken lightly. So the Prophet Islam called faghadaba. The Prophet Islam was upset with that person. Nam Sheikh? We have to go to hadith number 20 and we still
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Now, it mentioned regarding concerning so the general fawaid of these hadith that he mentioned regarding jawaz al-ta'khir al-iktisal, that it showed the permissibility, or it showed that if the person was to delay taking of their bath after janaba and their fasting, then after the sun have rise, or after adhan, or after fajr has entered, or after salat, then their siyam is still valid. So the person who may delay, or for the reason the person got up late or were delayed in performing of their ghusl, and they are still in a state of janaba, when the time of fajr comes in, then that person's siyam is still valid. The person's siyam is still valid. So the state of janaba, the person being in that state due to a thing that occurred before, then it does not nullify his siyam. It does not nullify his siyam. So as we're going to discuss, or to be discussed regarding that janaba, or so it doesn't nullify his state of that. Then I mentioned that also from the hadith it shows regarding a person who's fasting, that in the night hours before fajr enters, then the person is allowed to have intimacy. Now, so the person wants to have intimacy with his family, or the couple were to have intimacy, husband and wife, before fajr, then it's something which is jaiz. It is something which is allowed. This is allowed. And even if they were to perform ghusl after fajr, then their siyam is still valid. They mention a long case regarding concerning an incident that occurred regarding concerning a statement that and again, it's kind of some the hadith that I mentioned, the answer that I mentioned regarding concerning the incident concerning that Abu Hurairah, that was the one, isn't it? And Aisha, regarding concerning of those individuals that they mentioned that father and son that went that they were with Marwan ibn Hakam, who was then the Amir of Medina, and then certain things was said that was attributed to Abu Hurairah, are mentioned by Abu Hurairah regarding the person in a state of janaba, and he then Abu Hurairah anhu, that he mentioned what he have mentioned regarding this matter. Then those individuals that they went to Aisha and put the same matter to her regarding the person's state of janaba, and then she gave her answer that she mentioned, what had been mentioned is somewhat incorrect, and she gave the reason, or she gave her evidence why she took that position. Then after they went again to Hafsa, was Hafsa, Salama, then they went to Salama. So after they discussed the matter we discussed regarding Abu Hurairah, they were somewhat wanted further clarity on the matter, and then they went to get some more clarity on the matter, they went to Aisha. Then after Aisha gave her answer, which was contrary to the answer given by Abu Hurairah, then they went to a third person, who was Mu'mineen, Salama, and also her answer that it coincided with the answer of Aisha, type of thing. Then after they became convinced after hearing from both. Then wife of the Prophet ﷺ, then they decide to go back to Abu Hurairah anhu and to inform him of what they have come to know. So from this story in general, that it shows regarding concerning regarding concerning Masal al-Khilaf, regarding concerning certain adab, regarding adab al-Khilaf, that at times alim A may pass a judgment, and a person who may be the one who's listening or have come to know of that judgment of that alim, that you may not be fully convinced. You may not be fully convinced. So the person is not saying that I know more than the alim, but a person might not be fully convinced of the answer given by alim A. So what he does, he goes back to, and in this case they went back to two individuals that, who were they? Aisha and Salama, regarding what matter? Janaba, regarding siyam. So they mentioned with this case that they went back to Aisha or Salama because in these matters, you said, they are more specialists in that field. Regarding concerning matters, regarding the Prophet, regarding private matter, they will have more info compared to anyone else, his wives. So they went back to people who are more specialists, would have, they would have more detail on that matter. So you might find that an alim may give a general ruling. You may not be fully convinced, but you just want to have some reassurance. So what you do, you might ask others, especially concerning that others who are specialists in that field. For example, a matter regarding hadith. You want to go back to a person who's meant to be a specialist in that field. Or in fiqh, you want to go back then to a person who's a faqih, but known to be very detailed on those matters. So they go back to people who are specialists in their area, in a particular field. So it shows regarding concern that, in certain matters, that going back to people who are the specialists in that field, because they may be able to give more clarity. So they went back to Aisha or Salama on that matter to get their response. And also it shows that it's not per se gets said, is to confirm what was said, because there seems to be the person some level of being and not fully convinced, and wanted to kind of somewhat to just cross-reference the matter. So it shows regarding the aqwal of an alim at times may sometimes still need to be cross-referenced. That alim A may say something, and if the person is doing so, not that you're trying to say, you're not trying to, they say fatwa shopping. Your intention is not fatwa shopping. Your intention, genuine concern, is just to cross-reference the information. Then in that case, that is allowed for the person to cross-reference certain things, especially certain things that you believe that it still may need to be looked into further. So that they did this, and then after, when they got the answer and they were convinced, they went back to Abu Hurairah and they gave him the answer. And then also he made taraja, ruju and qawli, that also he changed his response. So it shows regarding that concerned an alim, that his initial fatwa, as how he sees it, may be, in his opinion, correct. Then they mentioned the hadith that in the Bukhari and Muslim by Abu Hurairah anhu, where he can somewhat, that's the basis on which he come to his conclusion. I mentioned the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the hadith, man asba junubun, the one who wakes junuban, fala sawm lahu, he has no siyam. Hadith in the Bukhari and Muslim. So he was going with this. But then you get to understand that there's other hadith that say that is somewhat different, that may have abrogate that judgment. But he wasn't aware of this until later on. But when he got access to that information was brought to his attention, then he took it and changed his opinion. So it showed that at times an alim, in his ijtihad, in looking at the matter, based upon what he knows and a look, that he may come to a conclusion, while others may come to a conclusion different from his. And if at the end that he believes that, so he sometimes when he's informed of other opinion and their evidence, he may see that if he's incorrect, for him to make a ruju. At the end, for everyone is al-bath al-haq, talabat al-haq. In the end, everyone is trying to find that which is correct and to go by this. So it shows that also regarding concerning a person, that alim, that ulama, as individual, may make mistakes in their judgment.
If you have been one of those people who said something wrong, how do you take it back?
It then comes and take it back as the person that one is the person alim or a teacher.
It's a normal person. If you heard something like what Abu Hurairah did and then spread it.
Then try to said that one the person said if the hukum to act to what is become what you believe then to be the correction. You act upon the correction. As for those that you have part of information, then for you to try, if you're able to reach them and give them a correct view, then you do so. So those who you have given the old information, then you try to give them the more new, updated, corrected information according to your ability. You with me? So as for the alim, then for him to that's kind of somewhat, if it's something that he has taught in his lesson, or when he's asked again, he just give the answer that was correct, and maybe even mention that before I used to be of such and such position, and now it have now come to my attention that opinion was an old opinion. I was incorrect, and this is the correct view. So it shows that overall regarding that, if we come to know something upon something one day, and you're doing it, doesn't mean the person that you're acting based upon what you knew to that stage or to that point. If something comes better, then you accept that which is the better, and then act upon it, and that which you were upon before, you just leave it. So at times we will change of our opinions. At times, so as in this case, Abu Hurairah was upon opinion, and that was changed because of reasons. What's that? Change based upon valid reasons, not just based upon hawa, but based upon principle. That what I knew then, and even evidence, but then later on I come to know different with evidence, and it seems stronger and better, then you accept it and you start acting upon that, and you leave that which was behind. Nothing wrong with that. That occurs. But everyone. Now, even a Mashaykh, we used to say that at times, based upon what was in the books and certain area, that the opinion regarding that a woman who has jewelry, gold and all those type of jewelry, valuable jewelry, that are they to pay zakat upon it or not? So the opinion that was somewhat widespread from what we read in the books was that they are to pay zakat upon their jewelry. Then after a while, studying all that information, they come to change that opinion that there's no zakat upon jewelry that are used. So they changed that opinion, but before at one point that was the predominant opinion. Then after a while, that opinion was changed and the predominant one becomes the opposite. So sometimes things change based upon, I said, from each research and looking at the matter. Yes, you at times will change your opinion. You really find a person in his early stage of study and the latter stage that they're upon in everything the same thing, you really find that there's things that will change. In certain matters, that's room for change. You understand? So from the hadith I said, it shows regarding that. It shows also not ta'assub ila a particular alim. Fas'alu ahli zikr. That to ask the people of knowledge doesn't mean ask fulan all the time. Everything I have to go back to fulan, this particular person. Then that's not the case. It's who's available and they're qualified. Who's available and they're qualified, but it's not that you have to stick. A person might live in a city, there's only one alim. So he's your main reference in everything. That's understandable because that's your circumstance. And you just take from him because, you understand? But if another comes, or you have access to others, then you're not, you understand? Then you can choose as you wish. Because all are qualified, but for you to just only see it as it all matters, I must, in your head, I must go back to this person in matters, then that's problematic. That's not the way of the Salaf Salih. That's not the way of the Salaf Salih. That's the way of Ailil and Ta'assub. With that, inshallah ta'ala, we'll end. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه السبيل والآخر دعوة الحمد لله العالمين.